One big mini intervention I remember is I was sitting at home reading a book. It was like a self-help book, mind you. And I think the irony here is so funny. It was like a book written by the Buddha or something. And I was sitting on the couch, candles are lit, and I'm literally drinking Salsa Blue tequila with a pineapple back, just shot chase. And my ex boyfriend walks into my house to like visit, and it's like 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night. And he was like, what happened to you? And I thought he meant like what happened to me that day. Like, why was I drinking so hard on a Tuesday? Like, did I have a hard day at work? And I was like, what do you mean, what happened to me? And he's like, what happened to you growing up for you to drink like this? This isn't normal. And I will never forget, like, the amount of shame I felt. I almost felt like very naked. Like, I felt very transparent in that moment, like someone had seen the true me. And I think it was just because it was so like, you're by yourself. It's like 7 p.m. You're literally drinking shots of tequila. It's not even like a glass of wine. So, yeah,
I would have been
wake up
like,
call.
what you're overlooking, maybe what you mean by what happened to you is when did you get so darn spiritual? Look at you reading the Buddha, candles lit. I would have been like, oh, you're noticing how awesome I am.
Yeah.
Hello, Laura, and welcome to Drunkish.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And we're just going cold. You don't probably know anything about this show. I don't know a ton about you. I know you are an outdoor girly, which I am not, but I can't wait to hear more about that. And also, you don't drink, which is pretty much the requirement.
We have that in common.
So you quit drinking in 2017, I want to say?
Yeah, August 1st, 2017.
Okay, why August 1st? Was it like
Because,
I want to hear your whole story, but I'm just like I'm
yeah,
curious about people that stop on like a specific like first of the month.
yeah, no, it actually wasn't planned. Like, first of the month, it wasn't intentional. It was just that my friend's wedding was on the 31st, and that was my last relapse, was on at this wedding. And so the first was my first day. But it's really nice and clean and crisp. So I'm into it.
It really is. And you know what I just thought of for both of us? Everybody does like dry January. There's another, but why don't people we need to make dry July happen. It rhymes.
I know. That's such a good point. Dry July, but I feel like the summer is when people are like going their hardest. And so sober October comes in when everybody's kind of like dragging out of the summer. So, but yeah, dry July and sober October, it just makes more sense.
I just feel like why wouldn't we pick a month where people are going really hard? All the barbecues and 4th of July, like you could avoid all that by taking July off, And then if that goes well, you could be sober in August, right? You could continue.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people have sober dates in July too. Like I can think of a lot of people who've got their like has have June, July sobriety dates. So yeah, I think to your point, I think people are going really hard and then they're like, oh God.
So my birthday, my natal birthday is July 5th. And I know quite a few people whose sobriety date is July 5th because July
Wow.
4th went too hard.
Yeah. Oh yes, that's so true. I didn't even think about that. Yep.
Yeah, big drinking holiday, that July 4th.
Yeah.
Well,
Totally. I will say I love having an August 1st soberversary because my belly button birthday is in January. And I hate that I have a January birthday because I feel like I can't do anything fun outside for my birthday. And so now I'm like, oh, my summer birthday is in the summer. And I love it because I can like have a party or a barbecue and do something outdoors. So I'm
mhm.
all about my soberversary more than my birthday.
I like that. Yeah, I know, a lot of sober people who take it very seriously are way more into their sober birthday than they are their regular birthday.
I always
So
say that I didn't have to work hard to pop out of my mom, but I had to work really hard to get sober. So I'm going to celebrate that one way more.
so you're saying that August 1st, that July 31st at the wedding was a relapse, which tells me that you attempted sobriety before that. So Go back. Tell me your story.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot like the beginning of my story is very like common. I think a lot of people can relate. Like, my drinking, I just was a party girl. I drank too much in college. And I didn't start drinking until I was 18. So I feel like I started later than a lot of people, but once I started, I was all in. I was a binge drinker. And I just loved the way alcohol made me feel. I feel like it really made me feel invincible, confident, social, because I was pretty socially awkward in my teens. And I just loved how I feel like alcohol was such a great connector and a confidence boost for me. Um,
So
and
were
so I
you
really leaned on that.
can I just ask, you say
Yeah.
18 because I have twins who are 18. They're still in high
Oh,
school.
wow.
So when you were 18 and you started drinking, were you already out of high school? Did you not drink in high school?
Kind of. So I had dabbled in high school, but the reason I started drinking more heavily at 18 is because I studied abroad in Mexico and the legal drinking age down there is 18. So I was like, I immediately in bar culture, party culture, and I didn't have that barrier of like having to be carded at the door. So that's the main reason.
Got it. Okay. So you're partying, having fun in college. Any consequences?
Not really in college. Like I was drinking like 4 or 5 nights a week. And I remember I was drinking like Jager bombs 4 or 5 nights a week, which is crazy to think back on. And I still managed to graduate with honors. And I just feel like I didn't really get hangovers back then either. And so there wasn't, I feel like consequences wasn't really happening. And everybody around me was drinking the same way I was. And so it wasn't something that felt out of place or, I just thought that that's what people do in their 20s and they're in college. And so after I graduated college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't have any clarity around what I was passionate about or what I was even good at. And I think that like constant drinking in college was part of what contributed to that feel this connection with myself and my passions. Um, and so I moved to a ski town called South Lake Tahoe, California. And basically, when you move to a ski town or a beach town, it's like college 2.0. Like everyone's drinking all the time, partying, like that party culture just carries on. And so for the whole duration of my 20s, I just continued drinking and partying. Um, and I would say the wheels didn't start to fall off until my mid to late 20s. It was little things here and there. Like I had someone point out how much I drank to me and I got really offended. And I think after that was when I kind of started to hide my drinking because I was like, I drink a lot, but like it's honestly not a big deal. And so I
What were
would
the
drink by
circumstances?
myself.
What were the circumstances around that? I call them like mini interventions. Uh,
Yes, it totally is. Like one big mini intervention I remember is I was sitting at home reading a book. It was like a self help book, mind you. And I think the irony here is so funny. It was like a book written by the Buddha or something. And I was sitting on the couch, candles are lit, and I'm literally drinking Salsa Blue tequila with a pineapple back, just shot chase. And my ex boyfriend walks into my house to like visit, and it's like 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night. And he was like, what happened to you? And I thought he meant like what happened to me that day. Like, why was I drinking so hard on a Tuesday? Like, did I have a hard day at work? And I was like, what do you mean what happened to me? And he's like, what happened to you growing up for you to drink like this? This isn't normal. And I will never forget like the amount of shame I felt. But more than the shame, I almost felt like very naked. Like I felt very transparent in that moment, like someone had seen the true me. And I was like I remember I got really angry, but then I got really sad. Um, and I started crying. It was this whole thing. But that was like a mini intervention for me for sure because that was the moment I realized like other people noticed my drinking, and I thought like I was drinking like everybody else, and nobody cared and nobody noticed. But clearly, people did notice.
had he ever said
Um,
anything about your drinking when you guys were together?
no, never. That was the first time he ever said anything about my drinking. So he clearly noticed it, but he never spoke up until that night when I was, and I think it was just because it was so like, you're by yourself. It's like 7 p.m. You're literally drinking shots of tequila. It's not even like a glass of wine. So yeah,
I would have been
wake up
like,
call.
what you're overlooking, maybe what you mean by what happened to you is when did you get so darn spiritual? Look at you reading the Buddha, candles lit. I would have been like, oh, you're noticing how awesome I am.
Yeah, right. I
Just
feel
since
like
I
I
didn't
did
get
so.
sober till 42. So I was
Yeah,
way in denial for longer than you. Okay.
yeah. And that's, I mean, I love it. Like, we all have our timelines, but yeah, I don't like, I would do things like this, like read a Buddha book. And I think it was my way of trying to like convince myself I had shit together when I didn't. Because another pattern I had when I was drinking is I would go to, this is so random, but I would go to Whole Foods because something about like being around at the time, I was like, this is where like people who have their lives together shop. And so I'd go to Whole Foods when I was drunk to like, I don't know, it was such a weird thing that I did when I was drunk. And so yeah, like read Buddha books, go to Whole Foods, go to yoga, like to try to convince myself of something. It was weird.
Convince yourself that you're not a fraud. That
Yeah.
speaks to me though. That kind of like, I want to be near people who are doing it right. And you probably wondered sometimes, like, is anybody else here doing the same thing?
I think so on a subconscious level, right? Like I would enter marathons and I'm like, oh, like look at me with all these marathon runners. And yeah, it was just this weird behavioral thing that I did to almost convince myself that my drinking wasn't a problem and I had my life together and I was still doing things that successful have it together people did.
Well, when you were training, did you train for the marathon or did you and would your drinking get less while you were training?
It's so funny. So the marathon, I entered my first marathon in like my late 20s. And this is kind of when I started to notice my drinking was maybe like a little out of control. And so I started doing the whole like, I'm not going to drink for a week or I'm not going to drink before 5 p.m. and trying to set little rules for myself. And I remember one of the main reasons I entered a marathon was because I wanted to like have a reason to not drink for a few months leading up to the marathon while I was training. And I could not stay stopped until 2 days before the marathon. I every night I caved to drink, even though I had trained that day. And I was like, why am I doing this? Why can't I not drink? It was a huge wake up call because that came during the time I was like trying to control everything. And I couldn't stop drinking until like literally like the day before or 2 days before my marathon.
God, it makes you wonder how many people have actually run a marathon hungover.
So many, promise you. People run marathons drinking. Like, there's a huge drinking culture in the running world.
Interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
I mean,
crazy.
it's not so crazy though that that was your thinking because like I know a lot of women who have gotten pregnant just because they know they won't drink when they're pregnant. Not that
Yeah.
not that everybody who gets pregnant actually doesn't drink. I'm not saying that. I'm just
Mhm.
saying some people are like, "Well, I know that when I'm pregnant I don't drink, so I'm going to just get pregnant to take 9 months off drinking." It's fucked
Yeah.
up.
Isn't that
Okay.
wild? Because that's the only time you actually trust yourself to like commit. Yeah. I mean, if that isn't a flag, then I don't know what is.
But we're people
Yeah,
that don't pay attention to flags.
yeah. Or you like, I mean, like me, I'm so hard headed. I need 1,000 flags. It's not going to be one flag for me. I need to like really prove it to myself through a lot of failure because I'm so stubborn.
Yeah. So, okay, so then what happens? So you're mid to late 20s, you're drinking a lot, you're trying to take a week off here and there, you find that you sort of can't, but it's
Yeah,
not enough.
I was trying to like, I mean, at first I was trying to moderate, right? Like trying to not drink at a certain time or only drink wine. I remember I went through like a wine only phase, and if it's going to be fancy wine because I won't drink too much if it's expensive, which that was such a flop. Like, or I only have one bottle of wine in the house. That way I only stick to one bottle. And I always drove to get a second bottle of wine. Always, always, always. And so after enough of that, I was like, okay, I'm going to try to stop. So I tried to stop for a week, a month, a summer. I remember I did stop successfully for dry January, actually. It was a dry January girly. And I had a trip to Southeast Asia that I was going to go on for like 2 months with my friends. And I was like, I'm going to like do dry January. And then like my first drink back is going to be in Thailand, like under the sun. And it's going to be so romantic. And that whole time I was literally like counting down the days until I could have a drink again, which should have been a flag, but wasn't to me at the time. And I made it through dry January, but I didn't make it to Thailand. As soon as we got to the airport, I caved and had a drink at the airport. And then the whole trip in Thailand, I was an absolute shit show, drinking constantly, could not stop drinking, was hungover so much of the time. And I remember being like, oh my God, like I thought I would have my drinking under more control after doing dry January. But I was like right back to the same downward spiral, circling the drain, like shitty feeling. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse.
Yes, you are.
In
I insist upon it.
okay, okay. So I was like right back in the circling the spiral, and I was like, oh my God. And it's like so funny because so many of us do dry January and sober October under this assumption that we're gonna be able to come back and drink like a gentleman or be able to moderate. But honestly, like it's you go right back to the same backside right into the same old patterns. And that's what happened for me.
If not worse. I mean, I you see it all the time with other things too, like people that go on a diet. You go on like a strict diet and then you decide to eat not dietary food again, and then you don't understand, why am I binging on this food? I've been
Yeah.
like I've gotten myself so healthy. It's
Hmm.
the mindset. It's the deprivation that maybe you don't even feel deprived when you're doing your dry January. Maybe you feel like so proud of yourself and like, I feel great. I have so much more
Yeah.
energy. My skin is clear. Like this is amazing. But as soon as you drink, it just all comes back.
It does. And it's so funny because sometimes I look back on those journal entries and I'm like, oh my God, I have so much energy today. I'm kicking ass in the gym. Like, I'm having all these amazing effects and experiences of sobriety. But it was also side by side with being excited to drink again. I think like I was very attached to this idea that drinking enhanced life and enhanced life experiences. So I think part of me was like, oh, I'm having all these like amazing experiences right now. Like, and then when I drink again, I'm going to just enhance this. I'm not going to spiral, you know? And so I think there was a big disconnect there as far as like the impact I really thought alcohol had in my life.
And how is it affecting relationships? Like, did your parents notice you drank too much? Did you have another boyfriend at this time?
You know, I didn't have a lot of people who confronted me about my drinking. And I think it's because they knew how stubborn I was and how defensive I would be. And so I think that's why they never like broached the topic other than my ex, who was like, I wouldn't say he was confrontational, but he was very direct. And I really appreciate that about him looking back. But I mean, it was certainly affecting relationships on certain levels. And like, I was very flaky. I didn't follow through on things. Another thing I remember about myself when I was drinking is I would drink and like fantasize about this big life I wanted to have and create for myself, but I never had any follow through. Like my drinking kept me very stuck. And I remember I remember like saying something like, oh yeah, I'm going to like go to study abroad in China or something. I can't remember. I was like, had mentioned some dream of mine and someone was like, oh yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. And that was when I realized like nobody believed anything I said because I did not follow through on anything ever. And so my word was like rang hollow in people's ears. And I remember how that felt. Like it just felt so crappy because people just didn't take me seriously. People didn't think I followed through. And that was something I remember I really wanted. I wanted to be someone who, like, when I said I wanted to do something, people actually believed I would follow through. And I'm like, it's crazy because I'm that person now, but for so long I wasn't. And so I don't know if it super affected relationships, but it definitely impacted the way people saw me. I think the way, like, okay, Laura's flaky, so we're not going to count on her for things like that. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I mean, wheels definitely started to fall off. Like I got a DUI and I
Oh,
blew
what happened?
0.21. Yeah. And it passed the field sobriety tests. So that's how
Wait, so
like
tell me the
how
story.
I
So were you leaving a bar? What were you doing?
I was leaving. I went to my girlfriend's house. Like, we just had some wine and hung out. And when I left, like, I just left to drive home. And I lived like a couple blocks away. So, Okay. Also, I should just note that I was a horrible drunk driver. Like I drove drunk all the time. I drank and drove constantly. It was just something that I did and is was just a part of like my alcoholic me. And so anyways, and my friends, I remember my friends were like, yeah, we didn't even think you were that drunk at all. Like you didn't seem drunk. You didn't seem that super buzzed. So I got my car, drove home. And I got pulled over for having a broken license plate light. Like I wasn't pulled over because I was swerving. And so they pulled me over. They're like, a license plate light is out. And then they were like, have you been drinking? And I knew immediately like I was getting a DUI. Because my eyes just like do a certain thing. I mean, you know, like you kind of get the glassy eyes. Um, and sorry. Oh, so my partner's home. One second. I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize he was coming home early.
Oh, that's okay.
um,
Can you still speak freely?
yes. Okay.
Okay.
Do you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay, sorry. You might have to edit that part out. um,
So you're
but
so you felt like you had glassy eyes and
yes, I
they're
had
like, "Have you
glassy
been
eyes.
drinking?" Uh-huh.
Yeah, they have you been drinking? And so I did the sobriety field test and I did okay. And then they breathalyzed me and I blew 0.21 and they were like, ma'am, you got a drinking problem. Like, this is crazy. And so they sent me to sent me to jail, the drunk tank, and I spent the night there. And I'll never forget the shame that I had that night because they gave me this itty bitty little blanket. And I'm like in this room with the bright fluorescent lights, and they put the toilets like in full view of like the officers there. Like you have zero privacy. Like if you're peeing or pooping, you're doing it in front of like five people. And I just had so much shame because it was like I had this perception of myself at the time. And I was like, this isn't me. This isn't like what's supposed to happen. Like, I'm not somebody who gets a DUI, even though I was like a constantly driving drunk. But I don't know. It was just like I thought I was above it all. And that was certainly one of the many, what did you call it? Wake up calls,
Yeah.
interventions. Yeah.
Flags. Yeah.
Flags. Yeah. And so I quit drinking actually, I think after that for like 4 or 5 months, which was like the longest time I had gone in a long time. Maybe not 4 or 5. That seems like a long time, but probably like 2 or 3. And then
Just
I was
coasting
like,
on shame, right? Like at that point, you were
yes,
not
yes.
thinking, okay, I'm for sure an alcoholic. I note about drunk driving. If you're anything like me, which it sounds like you are, the reason that we drunk drive is or drive drunk, I should say, is because we don't feel drunk. Like it's not a
Yeah.
conscious thing where you go, I don't care that I'm drunk and gonna risk people's lives, including my own or whoever's in my car. It's not that we're thinking that, we're thinking like, I feel fine. I can
Yeah.
totally drive right now. Like there's no problem here. I'll be fine. And then when we're not fine, that's the shock. 'Cause you're
Oh,
like,
yeah. Stephanie, I thought I was a better driver when I had been drinking because I was like, well, I know I've been drinking, so I'm just going to be extra careful. Like, girl, I cringe.
right. So you go a couple months.
Yeah, I went a couple months, and I think at this point I knew I had a drinking problem. I think I knew.
Did you
So
do
yeah,
it? How
I
did you stay stopped even for a couple months? Did you go to a meeting? Did you get in an online support group or were you just like, I'm just going to tough this out? Like, I'm just not going to
I
drink.
think it I think it was just like the shame, like you said. It was a shame sobriety, which doesn't have like, shame's when you say sober because of shame, it definitely has like a time allotment. Like it only works so long. Because I've seen so many of my friends who have drinking problems stop because of like a really embarrassing thing they did. And they almost 99% go back because shame alone is not going to keep you sober.
It
You
wears
know,
off.
it wears off. And then you're like, oh, I got this, blah, blah. And it's not like you're doing any work, right? You're not like doing any internal excavation to understand why you drink the way you drink or like, you know what I mean? It's like there's no self reflection. I mean, some people might, I think maybe shame is like the thing that starts that journey, but that wasn't the case for me, And so it took a lot more. It took a lot more hiccups. I think, but you know what I tell people? Like, is I did have a lot of consequences. I got demoted at a job. I got this DUI and a couple other things. Like my ex mentioned something. But it got to a point where I would be like sitting in my room, like drunk on a Tuesday or something. And I just knew like that was not normal. And I also knew like, I felt like shit all the time. I was hungover, trying to not drink, trying to struggle. Like it was this constant struggle. And I was like, I don't know what's worse. Like having consequences or maybe not having consequences and just staying stuck in this limbo of like misery because I started to become hyper aware that my drinking was probably holding me back and that like was eating away at my soul.
I relate to that a lot. Yeah. I didn't have a super dramatic bottom either. I just got sick of feeling so blah and like this is my life and I drink every single
Yeah.
night and I'm not moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a scene in the book Blackout by Sarah Hepola that I really love and she's like laying in the tub and she's like, what if I never have consequences? What if my life just stays tiny forever and I just stay in this tiny life where I'm sad and depressed and alcohol is like the only thing and it's just always going to hold me back and keep me trapped. And she's like, I don't know, like what's worse. Cause like sometimes with like consequences, it's like, okay, well, this is a clear indication I need to stop and it lights the fire under your butt to like make a change. But what if you don't ever have that and you just stay in that small hole? And like that scene, like I was like, whoa, because that is exactly how I felt. Like I was having consequences, but it's almost like you're feeling your life and your soul shrink and feel empty and knowing and feeling so out of control with this substance, like is so you just feel hopeless and defeated. And it was hard. And like, as you know, it's like, is this really what it is? Is this the rest of my life? Like this can't be.
So then what happened?
So yeah, so I got to the point where I was like, okay, I think I realized like moderation was not the way. I saw this quote. It was like, when I drink to have fun, when I drink to get, when I drink to have fun, okay, when I drank to have fun, I didn't enjoy it, but when I drank to enjoy it, I didn't have fun. No, when I drank to control it, I didn't have fun. But when I drank to have fun, I couldn't control it. And I was like, oh my God. And it really like put into perspective that moderation was like never going to work for me and never going to be fun for me because I was like, when I'm moderating, I'm literally like fighting and struggling to not have the next drink. And I remember when I would be successfully moderating, like on the outside, I would look like I was successfully moderating, but people would be talking to me and I literally wouldn't hear the words coming out of their mouth because all I could think about was wanting another drink. And that is like the grip that alcohol had on me. And alcohol was still keeping me from living my best life, even when I was successfully moderating. And I realized like a struggle to moderate was its own hell for me. And so I dawned on me that I'm like, I want to quit. I want to quit drinking. I really want to see what's possible. I want to know who I am without alcohol. Alcohol will always be there. Like if sobriety sucks, I can always go back to booze. It's everywhere all the time, constantly. Like it's not like this is like my last chance, last call to drink. And so that's when I finally
If
decided to give it
Laura
a real
quits
effort.
drinking, we're throwing out all alcohol.
Yeah. It's all out. It's all going out of business. Like you're never gonna see it at Safeway again. Like
Please, Laura, for
so
us, for the rest of us, do not quit drinking.
so funny. I'm like the way our brains, like the loopholes our brains would make back then is hilarious. Um so yeah, I mean, I tried a ton of stuff. Initially I tried to quit on my own. So like books, podcasts, all the things. I did join an online support group. I joined an online group called Recovery Elevator that I loved, that Paul Churchill from Recovery Elevator podcasts created. And I loved that community. And so I really started to have some success with sobriety, getting like weeks at a time, but I never could really lock it in. And so I feel like I got to a point where I was like, I think I need like in person accountability, like real human to human. And so that's when I finally like went to my first in-person meeting. And that is honestly probably like what changed it all for me. Like being able to work with someone who would work with me one on one, going to an in person meeting, hearing people's stories, hearing people like make jokes about like the past, like made me feel so seen. And it was just absolutely revolutionary for me. And so that finally, I mean, I think everything else helped, like help make it stick. The books, the podcasts really set a nice foundation, but I feel like that was the last thing I needed to really lock in. And so I got 7 months sober and I felt amazing. And I was like loving sobriety. Oh my God. I was like, because my original sobriety date was January 1st, 2017. And then before that, it was like October. Then I relapsed on New Year's, and then I had January 1st. And then that 7 months was amazing. I was riding high in a pink cloud, working, going to meetings, working with my mentor, doing all this homework. Like, and I was really starting to see some amazing changes in myself and really falling in love with sobriety in earnest. And then my friend took her own life, and I ended up relapsing at her memorial. And then like a week after that, I relapsed at my friend's wedding. And so that was like my two big like relapses that I had. And that was July 31st. And then August 1st, I was my sobriety day. And I had so many relapses. Like I always tell people, if I had a pickle for every day one I saw, I'd be able to garnish every burger in America. But I remember like promising myself I will never, because I kept telling myself, I'm never going to drink again. I'm never going to drink again. And then I was always breaking that promise to myself. And every time I broke that promise, I would just feel worse, like, and more hopeless. Cause I was like, I can't keep this gosh forsaken promise to myself. Like I suck. And then one day I decided to make a change to the promise I make myself. And I said, instead of promising I would never drink again, I promised that I would never give up trying. And I feel like that really changed it for me as far as like, okay, like even when I fell off the wagon, I was like, but I'm not giving up. And I promised myself I would never give up. So I would get back on and keep doing work. I'd fall off the wagon, get back on. And I was like, I know as long as I never give up and I keep trying something new and I stay willing and open to solutions, like something will click for me. Like I know it's out there and it's going to happen. And I'm so grateful because I couldn't get like more than 2 weeks. I used to look at people with a month, with 2 weeks, like they were freaking unicorns. I couldn't even look at people with a year. They were like in a whole nother like league. But the people with a few months, a few weeks, like I really looked up to them. And it's so funny because people will be like, oh, I only have a month. I only have like a few weeks. And I'm like, you have no idea. Like, those are the people that people with a few days look up to. Like, really does make a big impact.
I remember distinctly being outside a meeting. I can picture the guy's face, and I remember having 11 days and meeting a guy who had 9 months and being like,
Right?
9 months? How?
How does that feel? What does that
Mastered.
feel like? Yeah.
That's crazy. I was like, who does that? Who quits drinking for 9 whole months? Yeah.
Yeah. You look at them like they might as well be wearing like a Superman cape. Like, it's just so amazing to you. And they're
Yeah.
happy and like doing all this cool stuff. And you're just like, wow. Like,
So what do you think made the difference, like your last sobriety date? Just having
I
the different
think,
mindset and not being so hard on yourself and not being like, I'm a bad person if this happens
yeah.
again, and just
Yeah. I think that was part of it. Like, it's hard to know what was different because every time I started over, it felt different. Like there were some times that I had a day one and I would be like, this is it. I can feel that this is it. This is the last time. Like, and I felt really strong. And then I would like cave for whatever reason. Um, and so it always, so I think I stopped attaching to being like, this is the time it sticks and just being like, I'm just going to keep doing the work and keep showing up and like hoping, I don't know, with the goal of it sticking. I think a big part of what made for that success was I had that foundation the previous 7 months. So even though I did relapse, that foundation was like crucial because I got number one, gave me an opportunity to fall in love with sobriety, and I got that taste of like that sober joy, and I was like, ooh, I have something that because like, what if I was a shitty 7 months? I don't know, like I put in a lot of work. I got to see the benefits. And so I felt like I had something, I saw that light at the end of the tunnel and it made me excited. And so that kept me motivated and on track. I also think a really big piece for me was the accountability, like having a sponsor, a mentor who was working with me one on one and checking on me like on a weekly basis. Like that was huge for me. I like do really well with external accountability. I've since learned since I got sober. So like fitness journey, a career journey, like all my journeys, I noticed that I do much better when I have a coach or someone like kind of guiding me that I can be accountable to, because it's probably because I'm a big people pleaser, you know? So like why not leverage it to your advantage?
I mean, one of the things about 12 step is definitely that it's built in. That first year is all about like, for 30 days, first of all, you get welcome, newcomer, then you get like 30 days, and then you get 60 days, and then you get 90 days. And oh my God, like the applause and the people that are so thrilled for you to have any amount of sobriety. I remember getting to a year and being like, uh-oh, like, what now? Like, then I have to go
Right.
another whole year before I get to go like, "Oh my god, I'm 2 years sober." You know what I mean? And somehow I got over that and, I had a sponsor and, sober siblings, litter mates, they call it, people that are
Yeah.
also with your same the point is I found that in other ways, but I totally relate to the, "Uh-oh, what happens when people aren't, like, applauding me and really aware of my does everybody know that I have 62 days sober right now? Like, hello?
I know. I always tell people like you don't need anyone to celebrate your sobriety. Like you celebrate your own sobriety. Like and don't be afraid to, cuz there's some people out there who are like, why are you celebrating like doing the bare minimum and not drinking? And I'm like, number one, shut the F up. But number two, like, shit, like I always like bought myself a plant or I would do something to celebrate like my milestones in the beginning. Like I have a plant from when I was 3 months sober that I still have. And then we've grown together over the years. I have a bunch of 1 year plants because my sponsor got me a plant. Like all my friends got me a plant. And it's so cute because I like have seen these plants grow with me. I threw a party for myself for my 4 year sober anniversary, had like a mocktail bar. It was so fun. But I don't know, like I love it because I feel like we should be excited to stay sober. And it's just like with like animals, like positive reinforcement, like you give them a treat when they successfully do something. Like this is like my positive reinforcement. I should be excited to looking forward to my next milestone and staying on track. And so I'm all about like celebrating like the milestones, even if it's just you by yourself and like taking yourself out to sushi. Like it's just so special and having memories from those milestones as well.
So what do you think was the moment that you were like, "Oh," and I know we don't ever say like, "I'm done," like, "I'm good now." But what was the moment that you were like, "Oh, okay, this is sticking?" Was it when you got past the 7-month mark, the last time that you know what I mean? Was it when you got the
Hmm.
most time that you'd
You
ever
know,
had?
I I think a big one for me was okay. One, gosh, it happened so gradually, so it's hard to know. But like, I did have a big moment when I was a couple of months sober after August 1st. I had just started meditating, and before that, I was like, meditation super woo woo, like that's not my vibe. Like I don't do that like foofy spiritual wackadoodle stuff. And then I started meditating, and I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff actually works. Like meditation, I was doing like a gratitude practice. The gratitude practice was really rewiring my mind in a big way, and I was actually really surprised because that's another thing that I thought was super woo woo. But with the meditation, I was like meditating every day, and I had a couple months in, I was having a meditation and I had this huge breakthrough in my meditation where cuz I had a lot of shame around the things I did when I was drinking. I had cheated on my partner, I had been driving drunk a ton, I had the DUI, all this stuff. And I had a lot of shame around those things. And I remember in my meditation being like, I don't deserve blah, blah. And I have a lot of shame. And it just was so heavy on my heart. And then one day on my meditation, I like decided to forgive myself. Like, I was like, I forgive you. Like, I forgive you. And it's going to be okay. And I literally like almost physically felt the shame, the heaviness of the shame like lift off my chest. And I knew in that moment, like I was never going to feel that again. It was so crazy. And that was a big trigger for me to continue drinking, I think. And that is the case for a lot of people. We go back to drinking because we don't feel like we deserve sobriety, or we feel ashamed of things we've done in the past. And sometimes like it will bubble up, and that's natural, normal in early sobriety. And but like I really like sat with that and reconciled with it, and I'll never forget that moment, because after that I never felt that heaviness again. Like literally since that moment it's been gone 100%, and it's a big part of the reason why I feel so safe and okay with sharing my journey openly on social media and stuff, because I don't have any shame anymore. And I think that was one of the big breakthroughs where I was like, oh, like this time is really different, and oh, like the work really does matter. Because I think sometimes we're like, the work is stupid, it's not changing anything, like nothing is happening, and sometimes it feels like that. But then you have moments like that where you're like, oh yeah, this does matter and the work does make a difference. And so that happened. I did compete in a bodybuilding competition at 9 months sober. And I don't know why, but that was like a huge thing for me, because I didn't think I would ever have the discipline or the patience or the commitment to complete anything. Remember, like I was a big talker, never a doer. Like that was my first big do. Like that was my first big follow through. And so I think at that point I was like, oh yeah, like this is it. Like I'm sober now. Like I can't believe it. And I'm a sober girly, and I love sobriety, and I never want to go back. I didn't have urges to drink anymore, even when times got hard. I mean, it was like true freedom. Like like, because I wanted to have the kind of sobriety where like I didn't envy people who were drinking, I didn't judge people who were drinking. I wanted to get to a point where I was completely neutral and unbothered by alcohol and other people's drinking. And I had gotten there, and it was so liberating and so beautiful. And I really think it was in large part to like having that community, having that accountability, and also like putting in that work.
And then how far into being sober did you start your business, your adventure business?
So I started like your sober pal on social media when I was 2001. So like 4 or 5 years sober. I think like, yeah, around like 4 years sober, because it was during COVID. And I was like missing sober community, and then like everything was shut down during COVID. So I started Sober Pal. And then from that, the business just kind of organically happened because people were seeing me go on all these adventures and like being outdoors and backpacking. And people were like, how do you do that? And I want to learn how to backpack. Like, how do you even get started? It seems really intimidating. And would you ever organize like an adventurous thing for like girls? Because I want to meet other sober girls who like love to be outside and adventurous. And I was like, oh, I guess I can try it. But I really was like, oh my God, I don't know if I have what it takes. Like, I'm not really good. I don't consider myself like a good event planner / organizer. But I decided to give it a try. And the first year was so life changing for me and the girls that I was like, I think there's something here. And so I just kind of kept doing it, and it kept growing. And then finally I decided to turn it into a business and get my LLC. And that was 2 years ago. And now it's like I have a backpacking course, and like we have multiple 5-day adventure retreats. And it's just been like so incredible. And I can't even believe that it's true and has happened, and it happened so organically. But it's also been like one of the greatest joys of my life.
And then how do people join up? Like what if people want to take one of these trips? Where are they happening? Are they in Tahoe?
So they're everywhere. We have two different offers right now. One is like a 5-day multi-adventure retreat. And then I also do a 3-day backpacking 101 course. So the 5-day retreats, we have one in North Carolina in the
Oh,
Smokies. We have one whitewater retreat that's on the American River in California. And then we have one Lake Tahoe retreat. And then the backpacking course is also in North Carolina. And then we have two here in Tahoe National Forest.
that you're amazing. Do you ever have
Aw,
like
thank
old people
you.
like me, like going on 60?
Girl, you're like young. Like,
Oh,
yes, all the
good.
time. All the time. I've
I
had
I
girl
want to try whitewater rafting.
all the time. It's so funny because I get that question a lot. Like, am I too old? Sometimes people are like, am I too young?
Am I
And
too
then it's so
pretty?
Yeah, am I too cute for whitewater? No. But like I am like so I have had friends of different ages, but I feel like I've really grown like my friend circle through the retreats with women of all ages and experiences. And I am like so inspired. I'm like, you girls are baddies in your 50s. Like, I'm like excited for my 50s. I'm excited for my 60s because I'm like, oh, you don't have to slow down. Like, everyone's just throwing down, having fun. We're still giggly and silly. Like, so yes, like, and I love it because it's so fun to have like all the different ages come together and we're all just, I don't know, there's something about the retreats where we all kind of just turn into these like giggly 17-year-old girls together. It's like slumber party vibes and it's just like so fun.
Well, where do we find you? Tell us all your so your sober pal is your Instagram handle,
Mhm.
TikTok,
Yes.
all the things, and then is your website what is your website?
So your sober pal is my main handle, and then YSP Adventures is my adventure backpacking side of my business. So I have an Instagram account for each. YSP Adventures for the business, Your Sober Pal for me, and then you can go to yoursoberpal.com and you can see everything there. It's like I have published a sober affirmation card deck. I have my adventure retreats, hoodies, like all kinds of stuff.
I love it.
Um, and they can learn about that there. And then also I have a whole page of free resources with like meetings and like online communities that people can learn about too.
Oh my gosh, you have been a fabulous guest, everybody. Laura Van Antwerp, go check out all her stuff, and maybe we'll all meet up on one of her adventure trips. Thank
Hopefully.
you. Okay,
Thank
bye,
you so
everybody. See you
much.
next week.